The Baltimore Ravens could use a spark on the offensive side of the ball, and fitting that bill is Keaton Mitchell, but Keaton hasn't played, and he broke his silence on his lack of a role. All that and more coming up on Locked On Ravens.
You are Locked On Ravens, your daily Baltimore Ravens podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Ravens. Welcome into the show. I'm your host, Kevin Ostreicher of Ravens Wire, here with you on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks so much for being here on this bonus episode of the show on Saturday, making Locked On Ravens a part of your day, your first listen each and every single day. Free and available for you on all podcasting platforms, including in video form on YouTube, where you can like and subscribe to the channel, and as an audio form where you can follow along and subscribe as well. And thanks so much to all the everydayers, the first-time listeners. And if you're somewhere in the middle, thank you as well. Jam-packed show today, even though it's the weekend. We still got a lot to talk about. Keaton Mitchell, he broke his silence on his lack of a role through the first couple weeks of the 2025 season, which of course has been a very big controversial point within the Ravens fan base in general. Then in the second part of the show, Kyle Hamilton made some wild comments on the Baltimore Ravens fan base, and the Ravens fan base has not let him hear the end of it. We'll talk about that a little more in the second part of the show. Then finally, we got the final injury report for the Ravens and Chiefs matchup on Sunday, as well as a little bit more into a couple of key players that could maybe make an impact for the Ravens on Sunday that are being a little overlooked right now. Here to do that with me, it is from the Ravens Talk podcast and the Locked On Ravens Squad show, Sam Njoku. And Sam, I'll tell you, there's no shortage of stuff to ever talk about with this team, especially during the season. I mean, you got a 1-2 football team that needs to win on Sunday. But the problem with that is they're going up against another 1-2 football team that also has to win on Sunday. And I joke about it all the time. It's just like we all drew it up in week 4 for the Ravens and Chiefs, right?
Yeah, who knew? I mean, listen, losing to the Lions, losing to the Bills, not that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things as far as who you're losing against. You know, those are 2 Super Bowl contenders. But still thought the Ravens would be feeling a little bit better about themselves heading into this week 4 showdown. That's not really getting a lot of anticipation from Ravens fans. And the news still comes. I'm in the bonus episode, my first time as a guest in the bonus episode, so that tells you how much news is coming out there for this football team who needs to win here in week 4.
Yeah, you are the third ever guest in a bonus episode. Rocco Despangro and Q were the other 2. So you, third time's a charm for bonus episodes.
Elite company.
Yeah, look, you're talking about a team that, you're right, just losing to the Bills and Lions in the grand scheme of things, like very generally, nothing to be ashamed about. It's essentially how they lost and what the vibes have been around this team, which not great, honestly, through the first 3 weeks here for a lot of different reasons, which we'll obviously get to with the Hamilton stuff. But another reason is because the Ravens seem to be almost not helping themselves and almost putting a weight on their ankle here by not activating Keaton Mitchell, because he clearly can help the team in a lot of different ways. And for me, it's like, yes, we know the Ravens value special teams. Rasheen Ali, John Harbaugh's made it very clear he is the guy for them on multiple different units there. Justice Hill, we know he's great in pass protection, and he had a big role for them last season, although he really hasn't shown up a ton over these first couple of weeks. Keaton Mitchell feels like a logical choice to be like, hey, let's get a little spark going. But alas, he's been inactive, and John Harbaugh and the team continue to kind of have a united message that, like, it's not going to happen, essentially, is what the messaging is. And Keaton ended up talking with Sam Cohen of the Baltimore Sun and kind of broke his silence a little bit. He was asked by Sam if it was frustrating, and you could imagine that he said, hell yeah. He said, but it is what it is. Whenever they call my name, that's when it's going to happen. I'm always ready. I just feel like, Sam, as I'll say again, they're missing an opportunity. The offense is putting up a lot of points. I understand that, but they also have gone through spurts where you can tell in a moment or two, like having, whether it's Keaton on the field with Derrick Henry, that's a fun idea to think about. Whether it's a change of pace, he's someone I think can help this offense. And the Ravens, again, just continue to say no, essentially.
I think the Ravens are being a little foolish. They know more about the roster construction than I do, so I try and give them as much pass as possible. But the running game hasn't been spectacular after 3 weeks of the football season by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, I don't think Justice Hill got a single carry in that Lions game. So you need another running back, whether it's Rasheen Ali or somebody, you need another change of back. Obviously, based on what we saw in preseason, the logical choice is Keaton Mitchell, somebody who we saw go off in his rookie season. He got that ACL tear to kind of derail things, but not to the point where you don't even have him on the active roster. Now, I understand there are other positions of need. We have some injuries in the defensive front. We got, some guys who may be able to perform better on special teams. I'm not saying that he's the special teams ace by any stretch of the imagination, but his skill set is well known on the football field. And yes, you're probably going to know that he's going to run the football if he's on the football field because he's not that great of a pass blocker in terms of his skills. At least that's what we've seen from him when he's been on the field so far. But hey, you gotta get things going somehow. You need a push for this offense because we know at least through 3 weeks, this defense isn't who we thought they were. You need as much firepower as possible. He is a loaded gun that you're keeping on the holster for whatever reason.
And even the interesting thing too is you're right, like pass protection wise, that's something we know that he needed to improve on, right? He didn't come out and do that really great in the NFL level as rookie season. And that's something honestly, and Willie Taggart talked about this, the Ravens running back coach and assistant head coach. Willie Taggart was asked about Keaton's growth in pass protection and said that, quote, he's much, much better. He wouldn't actually do that a lot in college. Now you have a better understanding of how to do it now. Now he's doing it with great technique and with confidence. And that more than anything, when you're blocking in the NFL, you have to have confidence, and he's able to do that now. And he can have confidence because he knows what to do. It essentially feels like we're hearing that, oh, well, he needed to improve in an area to maybe increase his chances of getting on the field a little bit. He's done that. Also, you mentioned the preseason. That's a crazy thing, too. Like in the preseason, he was incredible. Like it's not like he had a mediocre to bad preseason. And you're like, yeah, he didn't really earn it. He earned it. And so if I'm Keaton, I'd be frustrated, too. But it's just like if he's showing you in those moments that he's improved and gotten better, is this just like, is it a trust thing at this point, or do they clearly just value the special teams ability so much that they're going to almost handicap themselves at the offensive position where you're not able to go out there and get your full amount of firepower that you have on this roster? A guy that's just sitting there that could really help you out.
Sounds like Willie Taggart's lying. I mean, that's the only thing I think of. Willie Taggart was not telling the truth about his ability that improved upon himself in pass protection. I mean, John Harbaugh made it pretty clear when he spoke about it initially that, there's only certain packages we could have Keaton Mitchell in because they know that if he's on the field, they're not going to pass the ball because he's not very good as a pass blocker. That's what I'm taking away from what I'm hearing from John Harbaugh. If Willie Taggart's saying that and he's still not on the field, then that's malpractice at this point because they need him out there to change the pace up a little bit. We know Derrick Henry he's a speed back by nature, but he's also a very powerful back. There aren't a lot of running backs in the league faster than Keaton Mitchell, who has the burst. And now we saw in preseason the strength combination that Keaton Mitchell has as well. If it's not the pass protection that's the issue, then there's no reason he shouldn't be out there unless, again, they are putting special teams in a higher tier than any coach ever in the history of the National Football League. Your best players play. He's one of your best players. He should play.
I'm fine, honestly, like me personally, with putting Keaton back there as the returner while also getting his ability on the offensive side of the ball, because I just don't think Rasheem brings that ability. And so Chris Horton, the Ravens special teams coordinator, said that the role, or one of Keaton's roles on special teams, would be as a gunner. He said the Ravens are happy with their play there. So it's like he's literally doing everything he can. It's like, okay, he can be a gunner. He can be a returner. He can be a spark on offense. Like he's trying to make it so he's useful in one area. And the Ravens are essentially saying, nah, we're good there. Nah, we're good here. Nah, we're good there. After we've seen him, I mean, his rookie year, again, I know that he had to work back from that last season, but his rookie year, he was second among all running backs. Only Devon Achane had more in terms of yards per touch. He was that good for them. And even with the injury, to me, Sam, I find it hard to believe that is totally sapped, especially from such a young player who we saw in the preseason again make those plays and look like the Keaton Mitchell of old. And you're right. I mean, we saw against the Lions where the Lions ran with Jahmyr Gibbs and David Montgomery, that 1-2 punch. It feels like, and even if it is just Justice, right? Like Derek shouldn't be the only running back getting carries. You mentioned Justice Hill didn't have a carry in that Detroit game. Like 1-2 punch. We were talking about how, man, that three-headed monster running back was going to be so good for the Ravens this season. That was what we talked about in the offseason. Essentially, it's just a one-man show here with Derrick Henry. And I don't think, even if it's not Keaton, it's the right approach to go with just one guy there.
It's not. It totally hampers what you're doing on offense. And, we were wrong about a lot of things, apparently, in the offseason in regards to this football team. And Keaton Mitchell just happens to be one of them. He's not going to get on the roster. He's not going to get on the active roster of the football field until, unfortunately, one of those three running backs goes down because, as you mentioned, Ali's the returner. He's fourth among returners. So he's stable there. Justice Hill is the pass blocker. When the Ravens need to get the passing down, they take Derrick Henry off the football field. They put Justice Hill in. He's out there either catching passes or blocking for Lamar Jackson. And we know with the play of the offensive line, he needs as much blockers as humanly possible to keep him upright. So it's just one of those things. He's a luxury item at this point. You'd hope that, for Keaton Mitchell's sake, if you don't want to use him, trade him, But, I mean, all it takes is one injury, and after that, Keaton Mitchell becomes a big part of this offense. But it just seems like it's not going to be the case. They're not going to have 4 active running backs on the field at once. Sucks to be him, unfortunately, but that's the way it goes.
Yeah, and 4 is too many for running backs on a game day roster. That is 100% accurate. And Harbaugh talked about Mitchell and said, quote, "I would have loved to have had Mitchell out there the last 3 games, but when he's out there, we're going to be excited to have him. He's on our team and he's practicing well. He had a great week of practice and really looked good. So yes, that's part of the dilemma with numbers." And I'm sure Keaton Mitchell does not want to hear any of that. Keaton Mitchell just wants to play. He said he's frustrated. I don't blame him one bit for that. So look, hopefully he finds his way on the field, not because of an injury, but just because of the fact that he is good enough to be out there and play. I think he has earned that opportunity, and he can help Ravens offense. And again, it's putting up a lot of points right now, but in certain spots, you can definitely tell that a spark is needed. So coming up in the second part of the show, Kyle Hamilton sent some sparks flying with his comments about the Ravens fan base. And Sam and I are going to talk about that because it is one of the most polarizing stories in the NFL right now. So stay tuned. A lot coming up on Locked On Ravens. This episode is brought to you by Square. Your favorite neighborhood spots run on Square. There are certain businesses that truly make the neighborhood feel like home, whether it's the local sports bar packed on game days, the coffee shop that knows your order by heart, or the corner deli that's been serving the community for decades. These are the places that bring people together. When neighborhood businesses thrive, the whole neighborhood thrives. And there's a local spot in Baltimore and Fed Hill, Be More Licks, and Fed Hill comes alive every Sunday during football season. Everyone's in team colors. The energy is incredible. It feels like the entire area is there cheering together. Those local spots are what makes the neighborhood great and feel like home. And so many of them run on Square. Square is a proud partner of more than 4 million neighborhood businesses around the world. You can go to square.com/go/LockedOnNFL to learn more. But before you do, go support your favorite neighborhood spot. You'll be happy you did. Square. See you in the neighborhood. And the show is brought to you by DoorDash. It's almost the weekend. Time to look back and crown this week's MVP on Who Delivered, powered by DoorDash. Just like you can win every Saturday with DoorDash Streaks, saving more every time you order. These players delivered when it mattered most. Let's break it down. For the Ravens, Rashad Bateman, he delivered in a big way against the Lions in week 3. Tough loss for the Ravens, but Rashad Bateman and that connection with Lamar Jackson, it was going strong. Clutch catch after clutch catch. And when the pressure was on, Rashad Bateman came through, no hesitation, no delay. And if you've been watching week after week, this performance wasn't a fluke. Rashad Bateman, he is on a streak, especially over the course of his career recently. And just like Rashad Bateman delivered for the Ravens, DoorDash delivers your Saturdays with DoorDash Streaks. You save every Saturday you order. Stack it up all season. You could save up to $250, including $100 in DoorDash credits. Order this Saturday. Keep the streak alive. Fuel your game day only with DoorDash. Terms apply. Promo period through 11/18. Back on Locked On Ravens, Kevin Oestreicher and Sam Njoku still talking Ravens football with you here. Sam, Kyle Hamilton had some choice words for Ravens fans on Thursday, and it was certainly something, got a lot of traction, not just within the Ravens fan base, but across all NFL fan bases. I had multiple people. I put the quote out, and I had people say, man, if I was a Ravens fan, I'd be so mad if one of my players said this. And so for those who don't know what Kyle Hamilton said, he essentially was asked about Zach Orr and how much blame should be on him and the players and the whole 9 yards there on the criticism of Zach Orr. And Hamilton said, quote, "I feel like sometimes Ravens fans can be a little spoiled. The amount of success this franchise has had, we lose 5 games and the world is about to end. I think on Zach, it's unfair to put all the blame on him. When there's 11 guys on the field who's playing their hearts off and he's put us in the right positions, that's where the critiques of Zach or whatever coaches are unfair, because he can't go out there and play for us. So it's up to us to go out there and get the job done." calling your fan base spoiled is just probably one of the worst things that you can do. And honestly, and Kaji Ismail, former Ravens receiver, and we talked about this on yesterday's show. Because I think it's newsworthy enough to talk about it for 2 straight days. This to me, it's not about being spoiled. It's about, this is like a historically bad defense right now. One of the worst in a lot of categories, the worst in plenty of others. And we spent all offseason talking about how this is a super team. They have all these first round picks. And like, that's the expectation in standard that not only this team has had over the course of the franchise history, but the expectation is standard the players set for themselves. They made it very public during the offseason that, man, like Marlon Humphrey, we want to get back to that 2000s Ravens defense standard. I don't think anybody's asking this team to all of a sudden become like, okay, you're the best in every single category in the NFL defensively. Like that to me be like, oh, and they're also not like a top 15 defense and everybody's saying, oh man, they need to be better than like top 5 in the league. That's not good enough. No, the bar is so low here in terms of like, they are the worst defense in the NFL right now in so many categories. I don't think that's the fan base being spoiled, in the optics of just saying the fan base is spoiled, especially your fan base, is just not good.
It's a disgusting comment. I'm trying my best to keep my composure here, but coming from a legacy where you have Ray Lewis, Peter Boulware, Ed Reed, on this football team who demanded excellence, didn't ask for excellence, didn't even, reciprocate the need to get excellence from your fan base. You demanded excellence every time you put your helmet on and walked onto that football field. And that comment made it seem as though he's okay with being poor, being the worst. And I don't understand the notion. Now, you want to call the Ravens fans spoiled. I get where he's coming from in some aspects. Yes, the Ravens are spoiled because we've had this long history of success in the grand scheme of things. But Kyle Hamilton hasn't been part of that success. He certainly doesn't have a championship to hold his head on. He doesn't even have a Lamar Hunt trophy. I mean, this is a guy who is leading a defense that is terrible in almost every major statistical category. So he shouldn't be talking to us. He should be talking to his boys. Kyle Hamilton has played decent football, but what about Marlon Humphrey, who's played terrible? What about, Malachi Starks, who's a rookie? You should be talking about how he's going to get better as a safety. So this notion that, okay, I'm going to defend my coach by attacking the fans is pretty stupid, if I'm going to be quite honest. It's really dumb. It's immature, if I'm going to be honest as well, because it just doesn't show the leadership that we thought that we saw from Kyle Hamilton. Maybe it's diarrhea of the mouth. Maybe it's one of those things where, hey, we're attacking the coach and we know that the coach is an issue. So, instead of attacking my teammates on live TV, let me attack the fans. But man, it had such a terrible outcome. I almost expected there to be an apology video coming out because Kyle Hamilton was just poorly received by the fan base. It was just an awful, awful comment. I'm hoping that's not how he truly feels. It really is a matter of the coach not doing his job and the players not doing their job. And unfortunately for Kyle Hamilton, he's a player, so he's part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would expect during his next media availability, he'll be probably asked about those comments again, and he'll have an opportunity, I'm sure, to clarify and, maybe redact certain words.
Or double down.
Yeah, whatever it may be. But yeah, and again, look, I have no problem with Hamilton. And I said this on yesterday's show with Q. I have no problem with Hamilton defending his coordinator, defending Zach Gore. I have no problem with that. His message in the second half of the answer was great. Like, that's what you're supposed to say, right? Is, hey, he's putting us in the right positions. It's on us as players to go out there and perform. Like, that's 100% like what the answer should be from a player. But it was just the fact that, I don't know if it was just like his frustration boiling over because he's heard all the talk, or he's frustrated. I mean, he's clearly frustrated with the play of the defense in general. I mean, I'm sure he's not happy about it, but there were better ways to get that across, right? And look, I understand the fact that, like, yes, we are early enough in the season where no, every loss does not mean the season's over. We are far from the season being over. There's still a long way to go. If I'm being honest, I'm actually decently confident the Ravens are still going to win their division and make the playoffs because, one, the division is just so weak this year, and two, their schedule does open up after this stretch. So that's not the concern. But I mean, look at it, and I said this yesterday too. Look at a team like Cleveland, right, where there is no expectation, right? You want to be on a team that has expectations and those standards, and with the history the Ravens have had. And as long as Lamar Jackson is on this team, it's going to be, oh, hey, offense it's really fun, really cool. That's what Lamar Jackson brought to this team, is the essentially like, oh, the Ravens are now known for their offense. That was never the case before Lamar Jackson. This team has been the pride of this team has been defense for their entire history. You mentioned the Ray Lewis, Ed Reed, like all those guys. It was like living through or, being a fan of the team, obviously when they won with Trent Dilfer in 2000, or when it was Kyle Bowler and that was a disaster. And then they get to Joe Flacco and like, hey, that was fun. They won a Super Bowl with him too. But, Joe Flacco is not like the pinnacle of exciting offense around the NFL. I be 3rd and 10, Joe would throw it down to a check down guy 2 yards down the field. Like that was what the Ravens offense was for a while. And like you had spurts of exciting moments, but every year when you or anyone else was asked, hey, what are the Ravens known for? What is their identity? It was defense, defense, defense. So that standard has been set. And, it does kind of make me wonder, is this kind of the messaging? Why does Hamilton feel that way? There are a lot of things we just don't have the answers. I don't want to put words in Kyle Hamilton's mouth. He certainly said some words that we can infer from, but I just think that the standard is the standard, and that's what it should be, and that's what you should want it to be. Is that, yeah, you know what? Every game is not technically do or die, but you want to be in games like that where games have high stakes and they feel competitive. You don't want to be on a team that like 4 weeks into the season is 0-4 and, oh man, you're already out of the playoffs. Who cares about this? That standard is one that is the lifeblood of this Baltimore Ravens team. And again, Hamilton's comments about defending a coach and a coordinator and a fellow part of the organization, that's totally fine. But, maybe it was just the frustrations got the best of them. Doesn't excuse the spoiled comment and all that. But I don't know. I feel like that's what I have to believe at this point.
Yeah, I mean, I just, the spoiled comment doesn't even get me as much as the losing 5 games and losing your mind comment. That's the one that really got to me because, yeah, you're too good of a football team to lose 5 games. You want to go to the Super Bowl, you can't lose 5 games because you don't have home field advantage, and that's the best way to get to the Super Bowl is to, win your games. And that's all Ravens fans are asking. They're not asking you to be, these number 1 defense in every statistical category. That would be nice, obviously. But hey, let's try not to be the worst defense in the league. Is that possible with all that money that you just got, Kyle? You just got that big contract and your defense is the worst in football. So I don't want to hear the excuses about it. Yeah, if you want your standards lowered, take a flight, use Southwest Airlines, take that 1-hour flight to Cleveland or Cincinnati. Yeah, the expectations will be very low. Oh, you got an interception? You're the best safety in the league. That's not going to cut it here in Baltimore. We want you to win championships. We want you to be competent. We want you to be worth the pennies that Eric DeCosta signed off on. And so far, you guys are bottom of the barrel. You guys are the worst defense in football. And if you go into Kansas City tomorrow and Patrick Mahomes put up numbers on you again, don't even show your face on camera. Just write a letter to us apologizing because then you'll really have egg on your face. You'll really look ridiculous if you were to fall to the Chiefs in the manner in which you fall into the Lions and the Bills.
I'm going to say it was a poor choice of words. I'm going to, again, Hamilton's like, at least from what I can remember, he's never made a comment like that before. He's been a leader. Like, yeah, it doesn't excuse what he said. It was clearly bad and not the right thing to say. It is not, look, to me, you look at, like, I'll just read off some of the stats right now. I'll read them off again. You might want to cover your ears, but the Ravens second to last right now in points allowed at 96. They're last in the NFL at total yards given up, 32nd in the league there, 1,245. They are third worst in the NFL at giving up first downs, 70 of those. They're the second worst pass defense in the league in terms of yards. They are the third worst run defense in the league in terms of yards. They've given up the most rushing touchdowns in the league this year through 3 weeks. And then you can also look at the conversion rates here. They're in the bottom 10 in third down defense right now, giving up 44.7% of those opportunities. That's 24th in the NFL. Red zone defense is worse. They're 28th in the NFL, giving up 78.6% of those opportunities. Like, again, it's not like the Ravens are a top 5 defense and everyone's saying they need to be 1. They need to be best in everything. Like, that's not. They're the worst defense in the league right now. The bar is very, very low. I think that's where the frustration from the fan base comes in. And again, like, I'm very curious to hear what the response will be. That's all. I mean, again, I'm going to chalk it up to poor choice of words. He might have looked at it after the fact, and maybe he's seen what people are saying.
He's got Twitter. He's got Instagram. He can come up and say something. I'm saying
maybe he's looked at it and said, you know what? Yeah, wrong thing to say. And maybe we'll hear something from him. So still probably an unfinished situation because the Ravens fan base is certainly not letting Kyle Hamilton hear the end of this one right now. But coming up, Ravens have a game on Sunday, despite all these other headlines. They have a game. It's against the Chiefs. It's a big one. We're going to talk about the Ravens' final injury report as well as some players that could be keys to this game. So stay tuned. A lot coming up on the show. First, the show is brought to you by Mazda. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Pick Plus awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but, from smooth handling to intuitive controls. With all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, we sweat every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Back here, Locked On Ravens with Sam Njoku. I am Kevin Ostreicher, diving into Ravens content and coverage. Ravens and Chiefs kick it off, 4 o'clock window. The Ravens only won 1 o'clock game through their first month of the season, which is just they've had that a lot too, where they kind of like to bunch those early season primetime games for the Ravens. And I think 2 years ago, maybe last year, I can't remember, they only had 1 o'clock game in their first 5. So
Yeah.
yes, they like those early season Ravens primetime games, the NFL does, but Ravens and Chiefs should be the matchup of the week. Maybe Eagles Bucks, but I'm picking the Ravens Chiefs as the matchup of the week here.
Yeah.
Looking at the final injury report, Sam, the Chiefs are very healthy, by the way. And like, of course, right? This is just the Ravens' luck. The Chiefs, they're going to have most, if not all, of their guys. I think Ashton Gillott's the only player that didn't practice for them. That was with an illness, but apparently he should be good to go. Ravens, on the other hand, we're not in CVS list territory yet for the Ravens injury report, but they have some big names. Obviously, the 3 that will not play after not practicing all week: Nnamdi Madubuike, Patrick Ricard, and Broderick Washington. Good news for the Ravens is Isaiah Likely participated fully on Friday, so That's a very good sign for his availability. He's officially listed as questionable. 3 other players are listed as questionable: Travis Jones, who didn't practice on Wednesday but had limited sessions Thursday and Friday. Ronnie Stanley and Kyle Van Noy each returned in a limited capacity on Friday, so they are also listed as questionable. Likely is an interesting one, Sam, because we know he's going to be involved in the offense if he plays. It's going to be very important for him to kind of start things off right, and honestly for him, hopefully fast. But we've talked about this. I've talked about it with multiple other people too. The expectation that Likely is just going to come in there and automatically overtake Mark and get 80% of the tight end snaps and just be right. It doesn't necessarily work that way, especially for a guy that's missed so much time. I'd expect the Ravens to try to ease him in pretty slowly, figure things out. Again, put him in opportunities where you can help the team out. But I think that we're going to see more of a split this season between Mark and Isaiah than I think some people might think there will be.
Yeah, again, Q has done a good job of talking about this. They're going to have to ease him in. There's no way that he's going to be 100% right off the bat. And even if he is, you want to make sure you take your time with him. And if you're Isaiah Likely, you want to make sure you take your time getting back on the football field and, taking on the responsibility that comes with being the number 1 tight end or even the number 2 tight end on this football team. So I expect him to be on a bit of a pitch count, similar to what they had Jair on during the week 1 of the season. So he'll still be in situations. I think the 2 tight end set will be a little more potent than it has been the first 3 weeks of the season, especially in the red zone. So it'll be nice to have him back. It looks like, based on the comments John Harbaugh made, that he looked good on Friday. So the likelihood of him playing on Sunday is pretty high. But yeah, I would just slow his roll a little bit. Mark Andrews had a very good game against the Detroit Lions. I think the Browns did a really good job of bracketing him, especially in the red zone. And the Lions just didn't do that. They didn't have that trust in Mark Andrews, and he let him pay. So I expect to see the Chiefs take a different approach to that, even though Zay Flowers was the main target for the defense against the Lions. I think maybe the Chiefs take that same approach because first 2 weeks of the season, Zay Flowers is almost unstoppable. So having Isaiah Likely certainly does well for Lamar Jackson, and having another weapon that you can trust to go out there and put some points on the board. We'll just have to see what that pitch count is, but I do expect there to be a pitch count on Sunday.
Yeah. And whatever that is, again, it's just working him back in. I'm curious, speaking of working guys back in and getting them back on the field, we know Jair Alexander is not been on the injury report for the last couple of weeks. Now he has not been playing in these games because clearly the Ravens don't feel like he's in good enough shape to do that after what we saw. Is he going to be like an every down or almost every down player for them this season now that, this is kind of unfolded the way it has? Or do you think that it's going to be a little bit of a lesser role than we thought at first?
I think it's going to be a lesser role initially. I think it's going to be one of those situations where you got to show me that you couldn't play. He looked like he was not ready in week 1. So they've done their due diligence the last 2 weeks. He's been on the practice field early. I guess the field of play early on before the start of the game to see if he can, if he's getting right. And I guess that hasn't been the case. I think he's a better talent than TJ Tampa. We can honestly sit here and say that, but right now you can honestly say that TJ Tampa is playing pretty decent football compared to what we saw from Jair in week 1. So did we punish TJ Tampa for playing good and put Jair in there? And if so, what does the fate have for a guy like Chidobe Awuzie, who's also had spurts of greatness, at least in my opinion, the first 3 weeks of the season? So I think Jair will get on the field eventually. If not this week, then certainly next week against the Texans. Get him out there, smooth him out, see what he can do, and then slowly give him bigger and bigger roles, give him a bigger pitch count, and then eventually he's one of those top 3 or 4 guys. But yeah, the Ravens technically are loaded at secondary, even though they're one of the worst secondaries I've ever seen, first 3 weeks of the season. But that's the hero that nor there, Kyle, I guess. But I think that, he's going to play eventually. He's too good not to play. Just getting him healthy, making sure that he's right to go, because at least we think there's going to be a long stretch of games heading into the postseason, and they'll need Jair for sure.
Yeah. So again, unclear if he'll play this week or not, but getting him healthy down the stretch is going to be very, very important because he could play a big role for them, especially when we know the player that he can be when he is out there on the field. Now, for the offensive line, I know it's an interesting conversation. Hopefully Ronnie's able to play, because if he does not play, that just messes everything up. But the Ravens did bring in a couple of players for tryouts on Friday. Kenyon Green, who was a former first-round pick of the Texans back in 22, and they brought in a punter as well, which I thought was pretty interesting. I don't know if that was just to save Stout's leg or, whatever it could be there, but bringing in a punter is interesting. I don't know, Sam, if that correlates to Ronnie or anything along those lines, but certainly something to monitor, because, you hear the word ankle and you see it next to Ronnie Stanley. Obviously, that's not what you want to see considering his history.
Yeah, I'm saying that if Ronnie does play, he's not going to be at 100%. I think we can all agree on that. But I'm wondering what his play on the field would be like. He got beat like a drum the last 2 weeks as well. Both Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson pretty much did their thing against him. Aiden Hutchinson didn't have quite the game that Myles Garrett had, but overall, I think that Ronnie Stanley being injured is not good for anybody, and their replacement for him isn't going to be that much of an upgrade. He won't be an upgrade at all. He's going to be worse, obviously, than what they got with Ronnie Stanley. So it's definitely concerning in this game. I think Harbaugh said he's day-to-day, which means that, he's more likely to play than not. He's one of those guys that doesn't need to practice fully to get on the football field, because he's just been with the team that long. But I'd be concerned if I'm the Ravens if he was on the field. I would love to have Pat Ricard playing, because he does mask so many deficiencies on the edge of that offensive line. So having him back would have been great. He's not going to be back. It'll be interesting to see if the Ravens activate a guy like Lucas Scott. They can't activate Zaire anymore because he's on that third activation happened during that Lions game. So he'll need to be on the active roster to play some football for the Ravens in 2025. All in all, very frustrating if you're a Ravens fan. Injuries are par for the course. Didn't have it like this in 2024, but that's why when you get a chance to get the job done, you get the job done. We'll see what happens with Stanley.
Yep, every year is different with injuries. That's why you got to take advantage of your healthy seasons, and Baltimore, unfortunately, has not done that over the past couple of years. Sam, I appreciate you. Thanks so much for hopping on. Before I get you out of here, give me one underrated player that you think is going to have a bigger impact than people think. And, of course, tell everybody where they can find you, what you're working on, and plug that Michael Pierce interview a little bit, because everybody deserves to know that's out there.
Yeah. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Ravens Talk Podcast. Find me on YouTube at Ravens Talk Pod as well. We have an interview with Michael Pierce where we talk about his time in the NFL, his thoughts on the Ravens-Chiefs matchup, and whether or not he's going to come back to Baltimore at some point. Kind of teased it a little bit, but I'll let you listen to it yourself, watch it yourself to get an idea of that. As far as a player that I think is going to step up big time, I like Tez Walker, what he's done this season. I think that Tez Walker is getting some playing. Really, the only reason why he hasn't been on the field, one, is because I don't think he's as good of a run blocker as Tylan Wallace, and Obviously, the pedigree of DeAndre Hopkins speaks for himself. So the more he gets acclimated with this offense, the more big plays he makes, he won't be able to be denied on the football field. So give me Tez Walker for a touchdown against the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. I think he's going to have a big game.
Man, you stole mine. I should have
sorry.
gone first.
You should have gone first,
Man,
buddy.
I should have gone first. You know what? Then I will raise you one DeAndre Hopkins. I will raise you one D-Hop. Made plays when he's been called upon. Made spectacular plays. I think he and Lamar will get together for one or two of those big plays in this game. Sam, I appreciate you as always. Thank you for hopping on, and all the links to Sam's work will be in the description down below. Check out that Michael Pierce interview. Obviously, thank you for tuning in today, watching and listening to Locked On Ravens. We'll be back here tomorrow with a game day edition of the show, so be sure you check that out. And of course, we got you covered for 5 days a week, plus more daily Ravens coverage. So hit that like and subscribe button in video form, follow along and subscribe in audio form, and I'll see you right back here tomorrow on Locked On Ravens.